Coming up, the Treasury Secretary takes back your relief funds. What possible changes will a Biden administration have for workers? The plight of women workers during COVID-19 and thoughts about the bleak holiday season ahead. All this and more as Labor This Week begins now. Hello, I'm Mark Harrison. We begin with Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin's decision not to extend critical emergency lending facilities beyond the end of this year. This is valuable money intended to help people suffering from the global pandemic. However, Mnuchin, like other close Trump associates, remains in denial about President-elect Joe Biden Jr.'s sizable victory, yet told an interviewer on CNBC, whether it's myself or somebody else, these can be reactivated. The question that wasn't asked by the interviewer was, well, if that's the case, why pull these back now in the midst of increasing economic downward pressure due to the latest spike in infection rates from COVID-19? Why? In fact, the Treasury Secretary was preparing to take these steps. First-time jobless claims rose for the first time since October 10th as more workers began seeing the effects of the spike in the pandemic outbreak. Meanwhile, over at the Fed and up on Wall Street, reaction was negative as markets reacted with down days toward the end of this week, and the Fed issued a statement that read in part, the Federal Reserve would prefer that a full suite of emergency facilities established during the coronavirus pandemic continue to serve their important role as a backstop for our still strained and vulnerable economy. Mnuchin is denying that the move was politically motivated, yet there is no denying that the step could hinder President-elect Biden's ability to use the Federal Reserve's vast powers to cushion the economic fallout from the virus. We'll be right back. With the political makeup of the U.S. Senate hinging on two runoff elections in Georgia, slated to be counted on January 5th, many Democrats are decrying the possibility that President-elect Biden will not be able to enact helpful economic legislation after he takes office on January 20th. Well, we'd suggest everyone take a deeper look. While it is true that without the cooperation of both houses of Congress, President Biden will be limited in some of his actions, many things can be put in place exclusively by the executive branch. And God knows we've seen outgoing President Trump take executive order signing to new heights. But what goes around comes around in Washington, and what's good for the goose just might be even better for the gander. Indeed, we are about to move from a president who surrounded himself with incompetent family members and sycophants who spent the last 4 years ill-advising him, whereas Biden has been to this dance before. In fact, he spent more than 40 years at this dance, and he knows how to get along. More importantly, he understands the importance of surrounding himself with smart, capable, experienced individuals who don't share his last name in order to get things done. For example, the incoming president could take several steps to enhance the CARES stimulus package passed by Congress last spring by using his executive authority to redirect some of the $2.2 trillion stimulus package and force oversight of those small and medium-sized businesses who took the loans and were supposed to keep workers on the payrolls. The incoming president could also move to change giveaways from Trump to major corporations and the wealthiest individuals among us from the 2017 tax law changes. And President Biden will also have tremendous latitude to direct trade talks and tariffs that would be more in line with helping workers. And the minimum wage for federal contractors, at least, could be raised to $15 an hour or higher by the new administration. And more importantly, remember that many of the actions against workers that came over the last 4 years were a result of agency rules changes, and President Biden will be making any new appointments to the National Mediation and National Labor Relations Boards, and more importantly, will be immediately appointing a new Secretary of Labor. The people appointed to these positions will have vast powers to promote unions and worker rights. In fact, the incoming president's transition team has already said the president will be reinvigorating the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, which is tasked with overseeing safety in the workplace. And finally, new and improved protections could be put in place to protect workers on the front lines of what remains of the global pandemic. And should the 2 Senate races in Georgia go to the Democrats who are running, well, things could be a whole lot different then. I'll be right back with the headlines. Turning to the headlines making news for workers, not only did new first-time unemployment filings increase this week, but so too did filings for new claims by those eligible for the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program, used by those normally not entitled to unemployment benefits and comprised mostly of workers in the gig economy. That number reached more than 320,000 new claims, bringing the total for new unemployment filings last week to just over 1 million workers. A notable difference to this economic recession is the ruinous effects it is having on so many women's lives. Job losses in areas that employ mostly women were the first to experience job cuts, including restaurants, retail, and healthcare. And then a second wave of job cuts came in the state and local government sectors, which here again are made up predominantly of women workers. And as if that weren't enough, many women have lost child care services and are being forced to remain at home to oversee younger children's online educations, making searching for new employment a near impossibility. While cases of the COVID-19 virus are on the rise across America, again, many frontline workers are still being expected to show up and work. No longer referred to as unskilled labor, but rather essential workers, as we know. Those folks are still being asked to work on the front lines, but this time without any form of hazard pay. Corporations that had earlier been paying some form of hazard pay, who now have rescinded those payments with no anticipation of reinstituting them, are Amazon, Walmart, and Kroger, to name just a few. And finally tonight, Harley-Davidson has decided it's had enough of India. The storied manufacturer of high-end motorcycles who idled hundreds of jobs in the U.S. in 2018 and moved some manufacturing to India, where what they called bike kits were assembled by local workers, has had enough of India. That job exportation move sparked a partial boycott of the brand here in the U.S., and in the end failed after all. So corporations shipping American jobs overseas should probably take note. I'll be right back with my thoughts on Thanksgiving in America this year. As we celebrate Thanksgiving in America this year, there is much to consider, not the least of which is the fact that more than 250,000 seats around our family tables will be missing a beloved family member lost to the virus. Now, many families will make the choice this year to celebrate without being together in deference to the pandemic, while others who believe it's all some sort of a hoax will throw caution to the wind and have large gatherings. Now, these are the ones who choose to ignore facts and disbelieve science. They are, simply put, in denial, much like the folks who run the Congress of the United States, who will get on jet airplanes, many of them corporate jets, provided for by a token fee by wealthy corporations, and then head home to the district for a sumptuous meal and a little fundraising and politicking. Indeed, the folks in Congress will sit down to eat, knowing they have denied 1 in 8 families enough food to eat at all, let alone for Thanksgiving this year. This is the same bunch who have refused to provide additional funding for out-of-work constituents who are doing without heat and hot water as darkness and winter descend on America. Their inaction this holiday season is leading to homelessness, to despair, desperation, and even many areas of the country leading to death. And as they do, the president sits in the White House, refusing to accept defeat and refusing to recognize the urgent need to coordinate the final stages of the pandemic and shepherd forth financial relief for the millions who urgently need help now. A new president is on the way. Help is on the way. And the promise of multiple vaccines are in the offing. A new day is dawning in America, and that's what we can be thankful for as a nation this Thanksgiving. Be safe, everyone. All of us here at the Labor Network wish you and yours the best holiday possible. I'm Mark Harrison for Labor This Week.